I am Ethan Hayes, a 32-year-old software engineer living in Raleigh, North Carolina. My life used to revolve solely around computer screens and sleepless nights due to deadlines. Until the morning of March 8, 2020, when my phone rang at 6 a.m., I rubbed my eyes, reached for the phone, thinking it was my boss calling to push a project. But no. The trembling voice on the other end was Mrs. Margaret Ellis, my grandfather's neighbor in Willow Bend, a small town 4 hours drive from Raleigh. "Ethan, you need to get here now, Mrs. Margaret nearly shouted through the speaker. "They're building houses on Samuel's land. Big machines showed up yesterday, tearing up the old cornfield. You have to do something." I froze, my brain not yet processing it. My grandfather Samuel Hayes' land, 280 acres of farmland he left me when he passed away last year, was being invaded. I stammered back, "What are you saying? Who's building?" "It's Pinewood Estates, that damn HOA." Mrs. Margaret snapped. "They've put up signs everywhere, saying they're building 96 luxury homes. I know Samuel would never sell that land, but they're acting like it's already theirs." My heart pounded. My grandfather was the most resolute person I'd ever known, always telling stories of rejecting dozens of offers from developers. No way he'd sell without telling me. I bolted out of bed, my mind reeling. "Hold the line, I'll be right there." I yelled into the phone, then hurriedly threw some clothes into a suitcase. No time to think further. Pinewood Estates, I'd heard that name before. A wealthy residential area near Willow Bend, where rich folks built vacation homes. But how dare they touch my land? I grabbed my car keys, filled with doubt and anger. My grandfather had entrusted that farm to me in his will, and I wouldn't let anyone take it that easily. I rushed out of my apartment, jumped in the car, and floored it toward Willow Bend. The dashboard clock read 6:15 a.m., but I didn't care about speed limits. My head was flooded with images of the lush cornfield, where I used to run around as a kid, now being ripped apart by excavators. I drove like a madman for 4 hours from Raleigh to Willow Bend. As I turned onto the dirt road leading to my grandfather Samuel Hayes' farm, my heart pounded. The familiar road, where I used to ride my bike as a kid, now felt eerily different. The roar of machinery echoed from afar, drowning out the peacefulness of rural North Carolina. The clear blue sky was stained black by thick clouds of dust rising from the eastern side of the farm. I pressed the gas harder, the car jolting over the gravel road. When I crested the hill overlooking the eastern field, I nearly stopped breathing. Before me was a horrifying sight. Dozens of excavators and bulldozers were tearing up the soil where my grandfather once grew corn and soybeans. Fertile rows of earth were now flipped over, replaced by orange-painted wooden stakes marking spots. Workers in hard hats moved like ants, pulling measuring tapes, spraying paint on the ground. Near the main road, a large sign hit me like a punch. Pinewood Estates East, 96 luxury homes, starting at $450,000. My blood boiled. This was my land, not theirs. I parked the car at the entrance, stepping out with legs trembling from rage. The air reeked of diesel and damp soil. I approached a woman standing apart from the workers, clearly in charge. She wore spotless beige pants and a crisp white blouse, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite the dusty surroundings. She held a clipboard, talking on the phone in a smooth tone. When she hung up, I spoke, "Excuse me, what's happening here?" She turned, eyeing me up and down like I was some door-to-door salesman bothering her day. "We're preparing for residential development," she replied, her voice silky as if rehearsed 100 times. "I'm Laura Bennett, president of Pinewood Estates HOA." She extended her hand, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. I ignored the handshake, cutting to the chase. "This is my land. My grandfather Samuel Hayes owned this farm. He passed away last year, and left it to me." Laura tilted her head, the smile still plastered on but colder. "There must be some misunderstanding. Pinewood Estates bought this parcel last year. We have all the necessary permits and approvals." I shook my head trying to stay calm. "Impossible. My grandfather would never sell this land. He loved this place more than anything." She shrugged, her tone almost pitying. "Maybe he didn't tell you. The sale was finalized 9 months ago. We've been planning this expansion for years. My head spun. My grandfather had been gravely ill in his final months, but his mind stayed sharp. He told tales of rejecting developers for decades. This wasn't right. I need to see those documents, I growled. Laura handed me a business card, her expression unchanged. Feel free to contact our legal department. I assure you everything's in order. Now, if you'll excuse me, we have a schedule to keep. She turned away, dialing another number, leaving me standing there like a ghost. I looked around. The machine still roared. The land kept getting torn up. Mrs. Margaret was right. They were building on my land, and Laura Bennett acted like I was nothing. I clenched the business card in my hand, a wave of helplessness surging up, but I wouldn't give up. My grandfather didn't leave me this farm just to lose it. I headed back to the car, determined to find answers at the main farmhouse. If there was any clue, it'd be there. Keep going, Pinewood. I'll make you regret this, I muttered to myself. I drove from the eastern field back to the main farmhouse, my mind still reeling from the confrontation with Laura Bennett. The image of excavators tearing up my grandfather Samuel Hayes' land haunted me, and the way Laura spoke, like I was some fool who knew nothing, made my blood boil. But I was certain of one thing: my grandfather never sold this land. If Pinewood Estates had papers, they were fake, and I had to find proof to prove it. The dirt road to my grandfather's old wooden house was now strangely quiet, with only the sound of wind rustling through the ancient oaks. I parked in front of the porch, stepped out, and looked around. The house was just as I remembered, a gray weathered roof, dusty glass windows, and the faint smell of rotting wood in the air. When I pushed the door open and stepped inside, the floor creaked underfoot. It was dark inside, furniture covered in dust since my last visit, my grandfather's funeral a year ago. I'd never had time to clean or sift through anything, but now I had to. Mrs. Margaret Ellis was waiting for me on the porch, with a pitcher of iced tea and a worried look. "I saw you drive by," she said, her voice shaky. "They started bringing measuring tools here 3 months ago." Samuel was furious, kept saying they had no right, that they were trying to steal the land. I sat beside her, still gripping Laura's business card. "Did he ever mention selling any land?" I asked, though I already guessed the answer. She shook her head, eyes welling up. "Never. He swore this farm would stay in your family forever. Before he went to the hospital for the last time, he was rummaging through his office, saying he needed to find something to protect the land." Her words jolted me awake. My grandfather's office, that's where I had to start. I stood, thanked her, and stepped into the small room at the end of the hall. The door squeaked as I pushed it open, the smell of pipe tobacco and old books flooding my nose. Dim light from the window lit up shelves crammed with farming almanacs, family photo albums, and stacks of papers he'd meticulously kept for decades. My grandfather was methodical, noting everything: rainfall, crop yields, equipment repairs, all in his neat handwriting. I pulled open the top drawer of the filing cabinet, searching for land records. Folders were organized by year, but there was nothing about Pinewood Estates or a sale. I dug through for hours, old papers staining my hands yellow, eyes straining under the faint light. Night fell, and I was about to give up when my foot brushed a loose floorboard under the desk. I pressed it. It shifted. My heart raced as I knelt down, prying it open with a letter opener. Beneath was a small hollow, and inside it, an old metal box. I found the key hanging under the desk, opening it with trembling hands. Inside, I found the farm's deed, stating 280 acres, not the 200 in current records. There was his will, naming me sole heir, and several yellowed surveys from 1915. But what stunned me was a handwritten letter addressed to Ethan in his script. "If you're reading this," he wrote, "someone's trying to take our land. They've come for years pressuring me to sell, but I refused. Lately a guy from Pinewood kept bringing papers, wanting a signature for a road easement. I never signed anything. If they say I sold, it's a lie. Check the 1915 survey against the county records. The truth is in the boundaries." I shook as I read on. He said Pinewood had harassed him, but he stood firm. The 1915 survey showed our land stretched far beyond what I'd thought, across the eastern field where they were building, even covering part of the current Pinewood area. I spread the papers on the floor, comparing them to a newer map. The eastern boundary had been altered, slicing off nearly 80 acres. This wasn't a mistake, it was fraud. I sat there amid the papers, anger and excitement surging. My grandfather had known. He'd left me this trap, not just the land, but the proof to reclaim it. Laura Bennett had no idea who she was up against. I folded the letter, slipped it into my pocket. I wouldn't let him down. I sat in the farmhouse kitchen all night, spreading the papers from my grandfather Samuel Hayes' box across the table. The dim lamplight shone on the 1915 survey, the 280-acre deed, and his handwritten letter, clear proof that Pinewood Estates was building on my land. Beyond that, the original boundaries showed 20 of their existing homes sat on stolen ground too. He'd foreseen this, and his trap was now in my hands. As dawn broke, I knew what to do. Take it to court. I drove into downtown Willow Bend at 8 a.m., heading to Henry Grayson's office, the only real estate lawyer in town. His small office on Main Street smelled of stale coffee wafting from the door. Henry was a thin old man with thick glasses and an outdated bow tie, but his eyes sharpened as I laid the papers out. "I think Pinewood Estates is building on my land," I said, pointing to the survey. "This is the original from 1915. Compared to current records, they've changed the boundaries." Henry leaned in, tracing the lines on the map with his finger. He muttered, flipping through the deed and my grandfather's letter, then looked up, eyebrows raised. "This is highly unusual," he said. "Per this survey, your land extends half a mile east, including the new construction site and part of current Pinewood, like the clubhouse, and about 20 homes built 5 years ago." He took off his glasses, rubbing his eyes. "If true, this is a major boundary dispute. We need an emergency court injunction to stop construction now." I nodded, heart racing. "How long?" Henry smirked. "I'll file today. With this evidence, a judge could rule within 24 hours. I left his office, a flicker of hope igniting. But when I got back to the farm, everything shifted. Laura Bennett wasn't sitting idle waiting for my move. As I stepped inside, I noticed the water wouldn't run. The kitchen faucet was dry, not a drop. I checked the meter, power cut too. Outside, 2 white SUVs with Pinewood security logos blocked the entrance. 3 uniformed guys standing guard. One approached, handing me a thick envelope. "Cease and desist from Pinewood Estates HOA," he said flatly. "Withdraw all claims about the land, or face legal action." I tore it open. Inside was a letter, accusing me of forging documents, and demanding compensation for damaging Pinewood's reputation. "What is this?" I growled. He shrugged. "Just delivering it. Have a nice day." He returned to the SUV, but they didn't leave. I tried driving out, only to find the entrance blocked by huge concrete slabs placed overnight. "This access hasn't been approved by the development board," a guard said, not even looking at me. "Closed for safety." I was trapped on my own land. The phone rang, an unknown number, but I recognized Laura's voice instantly, sickly sweet. "Good morning, Ethan. Enjoying the view?" I gripped the phone tight. "You're harassing me. You can't block my land," she chuckled. "Per county records, the real ones, that driveways on Pinewood Common area. We control it." "You know your records are wrong." "You know they're not," I snarled. "I have the original survey. You're building on my land." Laura stayed calm. "Let me spell it out. County Commissioner Robert Klein golfs with my husband every Sunday. The building inspector's daughter works for my real estate firm. By tomorrow your house will have 15 code violations. Water might shut off completely for maintenance. No one here will help you." My stomach knotted, but she wasn't done. "Drop the lawsuit, sign over the disputed acres, and I'll pay you a nice sum. Otherwise, you'll lose everything." "You can't scare me," I shot back, though doubt crept in. She cut in, voice icy. "You've got until morning to reconsider." She hung up. I stared out the window, guards still there, machines still rumbling east. That afternoon, A county inspector arrived, listing violations: faulty wiring, septic issues, unsafe porch railing. The repair list would cost thousands, due immediately. My phone buzzed, a text from Henry. Injunction granted. Construction stops tomorrow morning until a hearing. I exhaled, but knew Laura wouldn't let go easily. Clutching my grandfather's letter, I whispered, "You were right. They want to steal it, but I'll fight to the end." The injunction from Henry Grayson hit like a breath of fresh air amid the storm Laura Bennett unleashed on me. The next morning, I stood on the farmhouse porch, watching Pinewood Estates workers pack up their machines in the eastern field. The bulldozer's roar faded, replaced by their grumbling as the court order halted everything. But the small victory didn't last. Water was still off, power gone, and Pinewood guards lingered by the gate, eyeing me like hawks. Laura wasn't giving up, and I knew she was plotting her next move. I sat at the kitchen table, spreading the 1915 survey and my grandfather Samuel Hayes' letter before me. He'd written plainly, "The truth is in the boundaries." But to win, I needed more than old papers. I had to figure out what happened to the land records and who was behind it. Laura had mentioned County Commissioner Robert Klein, a name that raised red flags. I couldn't take on her power network alone. I needed allies. I texted Olivia Carter, an old high school friend from Willow Bend, now a reporter at the Willow Bend Gazette. We'd lost touch, but I remembered her as curious, unafraid to dig for truth. "Liv, I need help. Pinewood Estates is building on my land, and I think it's a big fraud. Can we meet?" Her reply came fast. 30 minutes, Cafe on Main. I sighed in relief, driving around the concrete blocks, hope flickering. The little cafe on Main smelled of cornbread, a North Carolina treat my grandfather loved. Olivia walked in, brown hair tied high, eyes sharp behind glasses. "Ethan Hayes," she grinned, sitting across from me. "Heard you're picking a fight with Pinewood Estates." I slid copies of the survey and my grandfather's letter over. "They're putting 96 homes on my land, Liv. This proves it's 280 acres, not 200 like the records say. I think they altered the boundaries." Olivia studied the papers, brow furrowing. "If this holds up, it's a scandal, but you need to prove who did it and when." I nodded. "Laura Bennett, HOA president, is tied to Robert Klein. She's cut my water power, blocked my road, all to force me out." Olivia tapped her pen, eyes lighting up. "I'll dig through county records. If there's fraud, it's there. You ready to go public?" I nodded, whatever it takes. That afternoon, Olivia called while I was at the farm. "Ethan, I've got something juicy. In 1995, county records show the eastern boundary of your grandfather's land was changed, shrunk by 80 acres. The document has a faint signature, nothing like Samuel's. He was in the hospital for heart surgery that month, right?" I checked the date on his letter. It matched. "He couldn't have signed," I said, voice trembling. "It's a forgery." Olivia agreed. "I bet Robert Klein's involved. He's been on the county board since the 90s. The truth was emerging, but I needed more firepower to face Laura. I drove to the current Pinewood Estates, where 20 homes sat on my land per the original survey. I knocked on the first door and met Clara Nguyen, a single mom around 30, soothing her toddler in the yard. "Sorry to bother you," I said. "I'm Ethan Hayes. I think Pinewood built on my inherited land, and I'm fighting to get it back." Clara stared, eyes wide. "I just put $20,000 down on a new lot in the east. If you win, do I lose everything?" I shook my head. "I don't want to hurt anyone. But how does Laura treat people here? I've heard she hits you with crazy fines." Clara sighed, pointing to a small fence. "I built this to keep my kids safe. They fined me $900 for unapproved. I can't pay, and now they're threatening to sue." Sympathy welled up in me. "Anyone else hit like that?" She nodded. "My neighbors, the Patels, got a $500 fine for a porch swing. Everyone hates Laura but fears her too much." I left Clara's with a list of names she gave me, residents fed up with Pinewood Estates. I knocked on more doors. "Mister, Patel said Laura made him remove his swing for aesthetic violations. Another, Trevor Mills, got a $300 fine for painting his door blue instead of beige. A clear picture formed. Laura used rules and fines to bully residents, and now she was targeting me. Back at the farm, I called Olivia. "I've got a group ready to stand up." "Found anything else?" She replied. Robert Klein greenlit Pinewood's first project in 1995. "I'm hunting for meeting minutes. If I get them, it'll tie it all together." I nodded over the phone. "Good, we'll beat Laura at her own game." My alliance was forming, and with Olivia by my side, I felt my grandfather's trap tightening around Pinewood Estates. I sat in the farm kitchen, the flashlight beam illuminating the list of names Clara and Trevor Mills gave me. Over 20 families tormented by Pinewood Estates with outrageous fines and rules. With the court injunction halting construction, and Olivia Carter's evidence of the 1995 boundary fraud, I had weapons. But to take down Laura Bennett, I needed the whole community behind me. I'm Ethan Hayes, a 32-year-old software engineer living in Raleigh, North Carolina. My life was all about computer screens and sleepless nights chasing deadlines until the morning of March 8, 2020. When my phone rang at 6 a.m., I rubbed my eyes, reached for it, thinking it was my boss pushing a project. But no, it was Mrs. Margaret Ellis, my grandfather's neighbor in Willow Bend, a small town 4 hours from Raleigh, her voice trembling on the line. "Ethan, you need to get here now," she nearly yelled through the speaker. "They're building houses on Samuel's land. Big machines showed up yesterday, ripping up the old cornfield. You've got to do something." I froze, my mind struggling to catch up. My grandfather Samuel Hayes' land, 280 acres of farmland he left me when he died last year, was being trespassed. I stammered, "What do you mean? Who's building?" "It's Pinewood Estates. That damn HOA," Mrs. Margaret snapped. "They've put signs everywhere saying they're building 96 luxury homes. I know Samuel would never sell that land, but they're acting like it's theirs already." My heart pounded. My grandfather was the most stubborn man I'd ever known, always recounting how he turned down dozens of developers' offers. No way he'd sell without telling me. I jumped out of bed, my head spinning. "Hold on, I'm coming right now," I shouted into the phone, then frantically tossed some clothes into a suitcase. No time to think twice. Pinewood Estates? I'd heard of them. A ritzy neighborhood near Willow Bend, where wealthy folks built vacation homes. But how dare they touch my land? I grabbed my keys, fueled by doubt and fury. My grandfather had entrusted that farm to me in his will, and I wasn't letting anyone snatch it away that easily. I bolted from my apartment, hopped in the car, and floored it toward Willow Bend. The dashboard clock read 6:15 a.m., but speed limits didn't matter. My mind flooded with images of the green cornfield I'd run through as a kid, now torn apart by excavators. I drove like a maniac for 4 hours from Raleigh to Willow Bend. Turning onto the dirt road to my grandfather Samuel Hayes' farm, my heart thumped hard. That familiar road, where I'd biked as a kid, now felt unnervingly strange. Machinery roared in the distance, drowning out rural North Carolina's calm. The blue sky turned black with thick dust clouds rising from the farm's east side. I gunned it, the car bouncing over gravel. Reaching the hilltop overlooking the eastern field, I nearly stopped breathing. It was a nightmare. Dozens of excavators and bulldozers gouged the earth where my grandfather grew corn and soybeans. Fertile rows were upturned, replaced by orange stakes marking plots. Hard-hat workers scurried like ants, measuring, spraying paint. A huge sign by the road hit me. Pinewood Estates East 96 luxury homes. Starting at $450,000, my blood surged. This was my land, not theirs. I parked at the entrance, stepping out on shaky, rage-filled legs. The air stank of diesel and wet dirt. I approached a woman standing apart from the workers, obviously in charge. She wore pristine beige pants and a crisp white blouse, blonde hair perfectly styled despite the dust. Clipboard in hand, she spoke smoothly on the phone. When she hung up, I said, "Excuse me, what's going on here?" She turned, sizing me up like I was some annoying salesman. We're preparing for residential development, she said, her voice slick, practiced. I'm Laura Bennett, president of Pinewood Estates HOA. She offered her hand, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. I skipped the handshake, cutting in. This is my land. My grandfather, Samuel Hayes, owned this farm. He died last year and left it to me. Laura tilted her head, smile fixed but colder. There must be some mix-up. Pinewood Estates bought this parcel last year. We have all the permits and approvals. I shook my head, fighting to stay calm. No way. My grandfather wouldn't sell this land. He loved it more than anything. She shrugged, sounding almost sorry. Maybe he didn't tell you. The deal closed 9 months ago. We've planned this expansion for years. My mind reeled. He'd been sick his last months, but sharp as ever, always bragging about rejecting developers for decades. This was wrong. I need to see those papers, I growled. Laura handed me a business card, unfazed. Contact our legal team. I assure you, it's all legit. Now if you'll excuse me, we've got a schedule. She turned, dialing again, leaving me invisible. I looked around. Machines still roared. Land still ripped apart. Margaret was right. They were building on my land, and Laura acted like I was nothing. I gripped the card, helplessness rising. But I wouldn't quit. My grandfather didn't leave me this farm to lose it. I got back in the car, set on finding answers at the main house. Any clue would be there. Keep it up, Pinewood. I'll make you regret this, I muttered. I drove from the eastern field to the main farmhouse, my head still spinning from facing Laura Bennett. Images of excavators shredding my grandfather Samuel Hayes' land haunted me, and Laura's tone, like I was a clueless idiot, set my blood on fire. But I knew one thing for sure. He never sold this land. If Pinewood Estates had documents, they were forged, and I had to find proof. The dirt road to his old wooden house was oddly quiet now, just wind through ancient oaks. I parked by the porch, stepped out and scanned around. The house matched my memory. Gray weathered roof, dusty windows, faint whiff of rotting wood. Pushing the door open, the floor creaked under me. Inside was dark, furniture dusty since my last visit, his funeral a year ago. I'd never had time to clean or dig through stuff, but now I had to. Mrs. Margaret Ellis waited on the porch with iced tea and a worried face. I saw you drive by, she said, voice quivering. They started bringing measuring gear 3 months ago. Samuel was livid, kept saying they had no right, that they were stealing it. I sat beside her, still clutching Laura's card. Did he ever talk about selling? I asked, already guessing no. She shook her head, eyes teary. Never! He swore this farm would stay in your family forever. Before his last hospital trip, he tore through his office, saying he needed something to save it. Her words snapped me alert. His office, that's where I'd start. I stood, thanked her, and entered the small room down the hall. The door squeaked open, pipe tobacco, and old book smells hitting me. Dim window light, lit shelves packed with almanacs, family albums, and decades of his precise notes, rainfall, yields, repairs, all in his tidy script. I yanked open the filing cabinet's top drawer, hunting land papers. Folders were sorted by year, but nothing on Pinewood or a sale. I searched for hours, old papers yellowing my hands, eyes aching in dim light. Night fell, and I nearly quit when my foot hit a loose floorboard under the desk. I pressed, it moved. Heart racing, I knelt, pried it up with a letter opener. A small hollow held an old metal box. I found a key under the desk, opened it with shaky hands. Inside was the farm's deed, 280 acres, not 200 like now. His will named me heir, and yellowed 1915 surveys sat with a letter in his hand. To Ethan. If you're reading this, he wrote, someone's trying to steal our land. They've pushed me to sell for years. I refused. Lately a Pinewood guy kept bringing papers for a road easement. I signed nothing. If they claim I sold, it's a lie. Check the 1915 survey against county records. Truth's in the boundaries. I trembled reading on. He said Pinewood harassed him, but he held firm. The 1915 survey showed our land stretched beyond my guess, over the east field they were building on. Even into current Pinewood. I laid the papers out, comparing with a new map. The east boundary had shifted, chopping off nearly 80 acres. Not a mistake, fraud. Amid the papers, anger and thrill mixed. He'd known. He left me this trap, not just land, but proof to take it back. Laura had no clue who she was facing. I folded the letter, pocketed it. I wouldn't let him down. I sat in the farmhouse kitchen all night, the papers from my grandfather, Samuel Hayes' box spread across the table. Faint lamplight hit the 1915 survey, the 280-acre deed, and his letter. Solid proof Pinewood Estates was building on my land. More than that, the original lines showed 20 of their current homes were on stolen soil too. He'd seen this coming, and his trap was mine now. At dawn, I knew this was going to court. I drove to downtown Willow Bend, at 8 a.m., to Henry Grayson's office, the town's only real estate lawyer. His small Main Street space smelled of old coffee from the door. Henry, a skinny old guy, with thick glasses and an old-fashioned bow tie, got sharp-eyed as I laid out the papers. "I think Pinewood Estates is building on my land," I said, pointing at the survey. "This 1915 original shows they've changed the boundaries from today's records." Henry bent over, fingers tracing the map lines. He muttered, flipping the deed and letter, then looked up, brows high. "This survey says your land stretches half a mile east, covering the new site and part of Pinewood now, like the clubhouse and 20 homes from 5 years back." He pulled off his glasses, rubbing his eyes. "If this checks out, it's a huge boundary fight. We need an emergency injunction to stop construction pronto." I nodded, pulse racing. "How fast?" Henry smirked. "I'll file today. With this, a judge could rule in 24 hours. I left, hope sparking. But back at the farm, things flipped. Laura Bennett wasn't waiting for my counter. Stepping inside, I saw the water wouldn't run, faucet dry, not a drip. I checked the meter, power off too. Outside, 2 white Pinewood security SUVs blocked the way. 3 uniformed guys posted up. One came over, handing me a fat envelope. "Cease and desist from Pinewood Estates HOA," he said, monotone. "Drop all land claims or face a lawsuit." I ripped it open, a letter claiming I forged papers and owed damages for hurting Pinewood's rep. "What's this?" I snarled. He shrugged. "Just delivering. Good day." He went back, but they stayed. I tried driving out, concrete blocks barred the exit, set overnight. "This hasn't been development approved," a guard said, eyes elsewhere. "Closed for safety. Trapped on my own land." The phone rang. Unknown number, but Laura's voice came, syrupy and chilling. "Morning, Ethan. Like the view?" I gripped hard. "You're harassing me. You can't block my land." She laughed softly. "County records, the real ones, say that driveway's Pinewood common ground. We control it. You know your records are off." "You know they're not," I snapped. "I've got the original survey. You're on my land." Laura stayed cool. "Let me lay it out. County Commissioner Robert Klein golfs with my husband Sundays. The inspector's daughter works for my realty firm. By tomorrow, your house gets 15 code violations. Water might go off for maintenance. No one here'll help you." My gut twisted, but she kept going. "Drop the suit, sign over the disputed land. I'll pay you well, or you lose it all." "You won't scare me," I said, though doubt crept in. She cut in, voice frigid. "You've got till morning to rethink." She hung up. I stared out. Guards still there, machines rumbling east. That afternoon, a county inspector came, noting violations, bad wiring, septic failure, shaky porch rails, thousands to fix, due now. My phone buzzed. Henry's text. "Injunctions through. Construction stops tomorrow till a hearing." I exhaled, but knew Laura wouldn't quit. Holding my grandfather's letter, I whispered, "You were right. They're stealing. I'll fight to the end." The injunction from Henry Grayson landed like fresh air in the storm. Laura Bennett unleashed. Next morning, I stood on the farmhouse porch, watching Pinewood Estates workers pack up East Field machines. Bulldozer noise died down, swapped for their grumbling as the court order stopped it all. But the wind was fleeting. Water stayed off, power out, Pinewood guards lurking, watching me like hawks. Laura wasn't done. She was plotting. I sat at the kitchen table, laying out the 1915 survey and my grandfather's Samuel Hayes letter. He'd written truths in the boundaries. Winning meant more than old papers. I needed to know what happened to the records, and who did it. Laura name-dropped Robert Klein, county commissioner, raising my suspicions. I couldn't face her power web solo. I needed backup. I texted Olivia Carter, a high school pal from Willow Bend, now with the Willow Bend Gazette. We drifted apart, but I recalled her knack for sniffing out truth. Liv, need help. Pinewood's building on my land. I think it's major fraud. Can we meet? Her reply zipped back. 30 minutes, Main Street Cafe. I breathed easier, dodging the concrete blocks to drive, hope flickering. The cozy Main Street Cafe smelled of cornbread, a North Carolina gem my grandfather adored. Olivia strode in, brown hair up, eyes keen behind glasses. Ethan Hayes, she grinned, sitting across. Word is you're tangling with Pinewood Estates. I slid over survey and letter copies. They're slapping 96 homes on my land, Liv. This proves it's 280 acres, not 200 like records say. I think they fudged the boundaries. Olivia scanned them, brow creasing. If this sticks, it's a bombshell. But you've got to pin who and when. I nodded. Laura Bennett, HOA head, ties to Robert Klein. She's cut my water power, blocked my road, all to break me. Olivia tapped her pen, eyes gleaming. I'll sift county records. Fraud's there if it exists. You good going public? I nodded. Whatever it takes. That afternoon, Olivia called from the farm. Ethan struck gold. 1995 county records show your grandfather's east boundary shrank 80 acres. Just a faint signature, not like Samuel's. He was in heart surgery that month, right? I checked his letter's date. Dead on. He couldn't sign, I said, voice shaky. It's fake. Olivia agreed. Bet Klein's in it. He's been county board since the 90s. Truth was surfacing, but I needed more to tackle Laura. I hit up current Pinewood Estates, 20 homes on my land per the old survey. First door, Clara Newen, a single mom about 30, calmed her toddler in the yard. Sorry to intrude, I said. I'm Ethan Hayes. Pinewood's on my inherited land, and I'm fighting for it. Clara's eyes widened. I put $20,000 on a new east lot. If you win, am I screwed? I shook my head. I won't hurt anyone. How's Laura treat folks here? Heard she slaps on wild finds. Clara sighed, pointing at a little fence. Built this to keep my kids safe. They fined me $900 for unapproved. Can't pay, now they're suing. I felt for her. Others get it too? She nodded. Neighbors, the Patels, got $500 for a porch swing. Everyone hates Laura but fears her. I left Clara with a list of names, fed up Pinewood residents. I hit more doors. Mr. Patel, said Laura forced his swing down for aesthetics. Trevor Mills got a $300 fine for a blue door, not beige. It clicked. Laura bullied with rules and fines, now aiming at me. Back at the farm, I rang Olivia. Got folks ready to rise. You find more? She said. Klein okayed Pinewood's first gig in '95. Chasing meeting minutes. They'll link it all. I nodded over the phone. Great. We'll beat Laura at her game. My crew was forming, and with Olivia, I felt my grandfather's trap closing on Pinewood Estates. At the farm kitchen, my flashlight lit the list from Clara and Trevor Mills, over 20 families harassed by Pinewood Estates with insane fines and rules. With the injunction stopping construction, and Olivia Carter's proof of the 1995 boundary scam, I had ammo. But to crush Laura Bennett, I needed the community with me. I called Olivia, at midnight. Liv, I want to hold a community meeting. The Pinewood Community Center is on my land according to the 1915 survey. They can't stop me from using it. She laughed over the phone. Bold move. I'll print 200 flyers. Emergency meeting. Your home may be at risk. Send me the survey to attach. I agreed, then called Henry Grayson. Can I start a new HOA on my land? Henry yawned, but his voice was firm. Absolutely. If the land's yours, you've got the right. The plan was set. The next morning, Olivia and I handed out flyers all over Pinewood Estates. By evening, the community center, a low building with a red roof right on my land's boundary, was packed. Over 100 residents crammed onto folding chairs, lining the walls when seats ran out. The air was thick with anxious whispers and the smell of stale coffee. I stood in the aisle, mic in hand, heart pounding. Clara, Trevor, and the Patels sat up front, eyes expectant. Sorry for bothering you all tonight. I started, voice shaky. I'm Ethan Hayes. My grandfather Samuel Hayes owned the Willow Bend farm for 60 years. Pinewood Estates is building 96 homes on my land, and I've got proof. I held up the 1915 survey. This is the original boundary. My land's 280 acres, covering the new construction and 20 current homes, including this center. The crowd buzzed, a few jumping up. Laura Bennett burst through the door, face red, eyes blazing with fury. This meeting's unauthorized, she shouted, trying to drown me out. Everyone go home now. Clara stood facing Laura. Or what? Fine us again. You've taken enough of our money already. Applause erupted. I raised my hand for quiet. I'm not here to cause trouble. I came because my land was stolen, but after meeting you all, I see I'm not the only victim. I invited residents to speak. Mr. Patel, trembling, said, Laura fined us $500 for a porch swing. We've had it 10 years. Trevor Mills added, I painted my door blue, got fined $300, while neighbors just got warnings. It's unfair. Clara choked up. I put $20,000 down on a new lot. If Ethan wins, do I lose it all? I shook my head. I won't let anyone lose their home. This is about Pinewood, not you. Suddenly Thomas Reed, a lanky middle-aged man, HOA treasurer, stepped up. I can't take it anymore, he said, glancing nervously at Laura. Laura and the board moved $500,000 from HOA funds to her son-in-law's company, Sunshine Consulting. I've got the books here. He handed me a file, his voice booming through the mic. She controls everything. I just want to do right. The room exploded, shouts, chairs toppling. Laura snatched the survey from Thomas, face purple. Nonsense. We have permits, sold lots, construction's underway. I replied calmly, permits based on forged boundaries. I've filed with the court to fix it. She pointed at me. This is a money grab. We'll sue you. I pulled out my grandfather's letter. Want to fight? Per this survey, your personal house, Laura, is on my land too. Silence fell, all eyes on her. Laura slammed the table. Meeting's over. The board needs a private session. But no one left. A young woman, Rachel Evans, touched my arm. I'm Rachel. I just bought a new lot. What happens now? I sighed. I don't want to hurt innocents. We'll figure it out. Laura shoved in, whispering in my ear. You don't know who you're messing with. I built Pinewood from nothing. No one takes it. She stormed off, leaving the crowd murmuring nervously. Olivia, at the back, winked at me. She'd recorded it all. My phone buzzed. A text from Henry. They know you've got the real deal. Brace for their counter. I looked around. Clara, Thomas, Trevor, and dozens more waiting for me to lead. Laura thought she was untouchable, but my grandfather's trap just tightened. I wasn't alone anymore. The community meeting that night ended with shockwaves rattling Pinewood Estates. As I left the center, the crowd still buzzed about the 1915 survey, Thomas Reed's books, and Laura Bennett's threats. Clara Newen, Trevor Mills, and dozens of residents eyed me with hope and worry. Olivia Carter winked, holding up her phone. She'd recorded everything, from Laura's yells to Thomas's confession. I felt my grandfather Samuel Hayes' trap closing in, but deep down, I knew Laura wouldn't go down without a fight. The next morning, I woke in the farmhouse to roaring engines. Blinding headlights pierced the windows. I rushed to the porch, finding 3 white Pinewood security, SUVs blocking the entrance, brighter than dawn. A tall guy approached, handing me a thick envelope. "Lawsuit notice from Pinewood Estates HOA," he said, voice flat. "You're accused of forging documents and disturbing order. They demand $1 million. I tore it open, skimming. Laura claimed my 1915 survey was fake, and I was scamming the community. "Is she insane?" I roared, but he just shrugged and returned to the SUV. I called Henry Grayson instantly. "Laura's suing me, saying my papers are fake." Henry sighed over the phone. "I figured. She's hired Charles Chuck Malone, top lawyer from Charlotte. Guy's known for winning big cases. We've got to prep for court next week." I clenched my fist, unease swelling. Laura wasn't just playing dirty. She was going all in. That night, a loud bang jolted me from the farm's west side. I ran out, only to see the old barn, where my grandfather stored corn, engulfed in flames. Fire devoured the wooden roof, black smoke billowing skyward. I called the fire department, but by the time they arrived, it was ash. Sheriff Daniel Brooks showed up, took notes, but shook his head when I suggested Laura's involvement. "No proof, Ethan," he said. "Could be an accident." I gritted my teeth. An accident when Pinewood guards had been skulking around all day. I called Olivia. "Laura's hitting back. My barn burned last night." She gasped over the phone. "She's reckless. I just found 1995 county meeting minutes from old archives. Robert Klein chaired it, approved your grandfather's boundary change. The signature's faint, doesn't match Samuel's in the letter." I gripped the phone. "He was in the hospital that month, heart surgery. He couldn't sign." Olivia agreed. "It's proof of forgery. I'll send it to Henry." Next morning, I met Henry at his office. He laid the 1995 minutes beside the 1915 survey and my grandfather's letter. "This isn't Samuel's signature," Henry said, pointing at the shaky scrawl. "But proving it after 30 years won't be easy. Chuck Malone'll call it a clerical error, not fraud." I nodded. "We've got the injunction. Now we hold the line." Henry tapped his pen. "I'll get a survey expert to verify the 1915 map. But Laura'll use cash and connections to drag this out." Sure enough, she didn't stop. That afternoon, a truck set up new signs along my fence. "Pinewood Estates East, luxury living, coming soon." Water stayed off, power out, and another county inspector came, citing more violations. "Roof damage, fire hazard." I smirked. Ironic, after the barn. The phone rang. Laura again, voice honeyed. "Ethan, seen the fun yet? Drop the suit, I'll waive the $1 million. Or you'll lose the farm." "Think I'm scared?" I growled. She chuckled. "Robert Klein dined with the judge last week. The sheriff owes me a favor. You've got no shot." She hung up. I stared at the barn's ashes, helplessness mixing with rage. Then my phone buzzed. Clara's text. "We're with you. Don't give up." Trevor followed. "Got video of Pinewood guards near the barn last night." Hope sparked. I met Olivia and Henry that night. "Trevor's got video," I said. Olivia nodded. "Good. I'll publish on the fire and 1995 minutes. Public pressure on Laura." Henry added. "Survey expert confirms the 1915 map's legit. We've got a shot in court." I looked at them, resolve rising. Laura thought she could burn my will, but she didn't know what my grandfather left me. The trap wasn't just papers, it was truth, slowly choking Pinewood Estates. After the barn fire, and Laura Bennett's threatening call, I knew I was facing someone who'd stop at nothing. That night, I stood amid the barn's smoldering ruins, moonlight glinting off charred wood. Trevor Mills' video showed Pinewood guards near it, before the blaze. But Sheriff Daniel Brooks refused to investigate. Laura had money, ties, and now Chuck Malone, a hotshot Charlotte lawyer, to drag me into a legal slog. But I wasn't alone anymore. Clara, Olivia, Henry, and the community stood with me. Next morning, Olivia called while I rechecked the 1995 minutes she'd found. "Ethan, I've got an idea," she said, voice excited. "Your grandfather's letter mentions the eastern wetlands, right? If it's a protected area, Pinewoods construction breaks federal law. I'll contact Wetlands Alliance, a big conservation group in North Carolina. I flipped to his letter, rereading, "They want to wreck the wetlands. Don't let them." My heart raced. Live, you're a genius. If it pans out, it's a knockout blow. Olivia sent the 1915 survey and his notes to Wetlands Alliance that morning. By noon, a dark green Jeep parked at the farm. Out stepped Dr. Emily Foster, Wetlands Alliance ecologist, about 40, in a waterproof jacket with a thick folder. "I'm Emily," she said, shaking my hand. "Olivia told me your story. If these wetlands have ecological value, we're in." I led her to the eastern field, where Pinewood's machine sat idle from the injunction. Emily knelt, sampling wet soil near a small stream running through my land. "This is a classic wetland ecosystem," she said, pointing at reeds and bird tracks in the mud. "I see signs of the great blue heron, a rare bird protected by federal law. If Pinewood builds here, they're violating the Endangered Species Act." I exhaled. Grandpa said this area mattered, but I didn't realize how much. Emily nodded. "I'll draft a report now. Wetlands Alliance can push the Department of the Interior to step in." While Emily worked, I decided to crank up the heat on Laura. I called Clara, Trevor, and other meeting residents. "We need a protest at Town Hall," I said. "Pinewood's not just stealing land. They're trashing the environment." Clara jumped in. "I'll bring the whole neighborhood." By afternoon, over 50 people gathered outside Willow Bend's Town Hall, a little red brick building downtown. We held signs, "Save the Wetlands," and "Stop Pinewood Estates." Olivia snapped photos, filmed, prepping a big story. Laura rolled up soon after in her sleek black SUV, stepping out face rigid. "What are you doing?" she yelled, jabbing a finger at me. "This is public harassment." I held up the 1915 survey. "No, Laura, this is the truth. These wetlands are protected, and you're ruining them." Emily stepped forward, handing over a preliminary report. "I'm Dr. Foster from Wetlands Alliance. We've notified the Department of the Interior. Build here, and you're facing the feds, not just Ethan." Laura paled for a split second, then regained her arrogance. "You can't scare me. I've got permits, and my lawyer will shred this." She spun away, but I saw her hand tremble as she got in the car. The crowd cheered, Clara slapping my shoulder. "She's scared, Ethan." I nodded, but knew she'd hit back harder. That night, Olivia called. Wetlands Alliance sent an official letter to the county, demanding a full review of Pinewood East. The Interior Department's sending someone next week. I grinned. "Nice. We just upgraded Grandpa's trap." Henry texted right after, "Chuck Malone wants to delay the hearing, citing time needs." They're rattled. I gazed at the dark field, victory closer than ever. Laura thought she could burn my barn, sue me, and lean on connections to win. But with Wetlands Alliance in the community, I'd turned my grandfather's trap into her nightmare. After the town hall protest, and Wetlands Alliance's intervention, Willow Bend's air grew tense as a tightrope. That night, March 11th, I sat in the farm kitchen, rereading my grandfather Samuel Hayes' letter by flashlight. My only light since Laura Bennett cut the power. Dr. Emily Foster had sent the wetland report to the Department of the Interior, and Olivia Carter was prepping her career's biggest scoop. I felt my grandfather's trap closing around Pinewood Estates, but Laura was still a cornered beast, dangerous as ever. Next morning, Sheriff Daniel Brooks knocked. 2 patrol cars behind him, Laura stood back, arms crossed, a cold smile blooming. "Ethan Hayes," Daniel said, voice stiff, "you're ordered to leave for trespassing on private property." I laughed, handing him my stack. "This is my house. Here's the 1915 survey, deed and Grandpa's will. Pinewood's the trespasser." Laura cut in, sharp as a blade. "Those papers aren't verified. You're disrupting our legal project." Before I could argue, a black sedan pulled up. A woman stepped out, Carolyn Mitchell from the county records office, thick briefcase in hand. "I can clarify," she said, approaching. "We got a report from Wetlands Alliance, and checked last night. The 1915 survey matches original records. This land's 280 acres, Hayes family property. The 1995 boundary change was forged. Laura blanched but snapped. Ridiculous. We have Samuel Hayes' signature. Carolyn held up another sheet. The 1995 signature doesn't match his will. He was hospitalized that month, couldn't sign. Daniel eyed Laura, brow raised. Anything to say, Miss Bennett? She stumbled, but I jumped in, handing over Thomas Reed's books. This too, Sheriff. $500,000 from HOA funds went to Sunshine Consulting, Laura's son-in-law's firm. That's embezzlement. Daniel flipped through, face darkening. Miss Bennett, you're coming to the station to explain. Laura shrieked. Don't you know who I am? My husband golfs with the judge. I'll sue you all. But Daniel didn't budge, leading her off as she thrashed. Carolyn turned to me. We'll fix the official records. This land's yours, Ethan. I nodded, relief flooding in. That afternoon, Olivia's Willow Bend Gazette piece dropped, Pinewood Estates scandal, land fraud and embezzlement exposed. She published the 1995 minutes, Thomas's books, and Emily's report. News spread like wildfire. Raleigh TV vans lined up outside the farm. My phone buzzed non-stop, residents asking about their homes. I had to clear it up, so I called an emergency meeting at Willow Bend High that night. Nearly 400 packed the auditorium. Pinewood residents, laid-off workers, curious locals. I stepped to the podium, mic shaking in my grip. I'm Ethan Hayes. This was my grandfather's land, and I didn't come to stir trouble. I just wanted to honor his legacy. Shouts rang out. What about our homes? I lost my deposit. I raised my hand for quiet. No one's losing their house. I'll issue legal deeds to the 20 current families. The new site stops because of the wetlands. Federal law bans building there. A man stood. I put $30,000 into a new lot. What do I get? I answered, we'll set up a swap program. Anyone who bought in the protected zone gets a new lot elsewhere, no loss. Murmurs softened into nods. I finished. Laura stole your land and money. I want to fix it, not destroy. The crowd clapped. I'd won their trust. Next day, Laura took a plea deal on embezzlement to dodge worse. Chuck Malone bailed, out of moves. The court officially recognized my 280 acres, including the new site and 20 Pinewood homes. I stood on the farm porch, gazing at the calm eastern field. Machines were gone. 96 luxury homes, signs down, just bird song from the wetlands. The court affirmed my 280 acres, including Pinewood's 20 homes. And I knew this win had to become something bigger, not just for me, but for all of Willow Bend. I called Clara Newen, Thomas Reed, and Mrs. Margaret Ellis to the farm that day. I don't want anyone homeless, I said, laying out the 1915 survey. We'll start Willow Bend Community Alliance, a new fair HOA that protects the wetlands my grandfather cherished. Clara grinned. I want to grow veggies without fines. Thomas nodded. I'll fix the books. No more embezzling. Margaret patted my shoulder. Samuel'd be so proud. Over the next 6 months it wasn't easy. I issued legal deeds to the 20 current families, easing their fears. With Dr. Emily Foster and Wetlands Alliance, the wetlands got a legal easement, turning into a spot with trails and signs about the blue heron. Those with deposits on new lots swapped to safe zones, no one out a dime. We redesigned development. Smaller homes, more green, no nature harm. By September, I sat on the porch, now the community center, watching kids bike past houses with doors in every color, blue, red, yellow. Clara ran a nearby community garden, tomatoes and squash thriving, neighbors swapping seeds. Thomas, Alliance treasurer, reported. All fees are clear, no complaints. Mrs. Margaret brought lemonade, smiling. You did it, Ethan, just like your grandfather. I pulled out an old notebook I'd found cleaning his office, a journal from 30 years back. He wrote of fighting developers over the wetlands, determined to save them for the future. Ethan's like me, he noted. Stubborn for what's right. I smiled, feeling him here, watching me finish his mission. That afternoon, a blue heron soared from the wetlands, gliding over peaceful roofs. The farm was Willow Bend's heart now, hosting classes, meetings, festivals. Laura aimed to steal my land, but my grandfather's trap didn't just reclaim it, it built a better community. Thanks, Grandpa, I whispered. I kept my word. The Story HOA built 96 homes on my land, finds they walked right into my trap, reflects real-life issues in today's U.S., especially around land ownership, HOA overreach, and community strength against injustice. Here Ethan Hayes battles Laura Bennett, head of Pinewood Estates, a greedy HOA trying to seize his inherited land in Willow Bend, North Carolina. Laura leans on ties with local officials like Robert Klein, legal tricks via lawyer Chuck Malone, and sabotage like burning Ethan's barn to intimidate him. Yet Ethan prevails with the 1915 survey from his grandfather Samuel, Wetlands Alliance support, and unity from residents like Clara Nguyen and Thomas Reed. He not only reclaims his land, but builds a fairer community. This tale offers practical lessons for modern America, where land disputes and power abuses persist, especially in rural to urban shifts. First, like Ethan, know your rights. He relied on his grandfather's legal papers and Henry Grayson's expertise. In the U.S., legal savvy and persistence in finding proof are key to protecting property. Second, it shows the power of allies. Olivia Carter's journalism, Emily Foster's environmental angle, and residents rising against Laura. Today, facing big entities, linking with community or groups like the EPA, can tip the scales. Finally, Ethan turning the community center into a transparent hub where Clara grows veggies without fear, teaches that winning isn't just reclaiming what's lost, it's building better. Be patient like Samuel, set your trap with truth, and don't shy from the fight. In America, justice often favors those who don't quit. If you enjoyed how me and the Willow Bend community fought to protect our land from Pinewood Estates, hit subscribe so you don't miss more justice journeys. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video, where we'll dive into more unexpected traps in life.